Thank you for joining me.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. This is a pleasure. I
No,
was I was enjoying listening to everything you were saying. Yeah.
I was talking really fast. I try to do these things every Friday just to kind of have the conversation with journalists for journalists. So thank you for joining me today, Bridget. Do you pronounce your last name Royall with the two L's?
It's just royal.
Okay, Bridgette Royall with two L's, who is
Yes.
a fellow freelance journalist. You and I met on LinkedIn, but how long have you been in the field of journalism?
Wow. For 24 years?
24 years.
Yes. Yes.
You and I are neck and neck.
Okay, how long have you been a journalist?
Since 1990.
Oh,
My first article was published in 1990 in the Source magazine. When was yours?
so it was sometime in 2000. But so technically, I doesn't this always happen? Speaking of interviewing people, but I started writing professionally, to be honest, in college. So
Mm.
I graduated from FIT, the Fashion Institute of Technology, in New York City, and I had a column called On the Sneak. I had a column called Beats, Rhyme, and Stop Making Money. The website, but I got the byline, I got the clips, and I interviewed some interesting people. Like June Ambrose was one of my big interview subjects, and she was still, styling music videos like heavy,
Yes.
working with hype and stuff like that. But I started working professionally in 2000.
2000, where was your first paid article on?
It was Essence
Oh,
magazine.
wow. Your first was Essence? Nice.
Yeah, I was on staff, and I still contribute quite a bit to yes, I have a 9 to 5,
Okay.
and I freelance. And it's not hard to figure out. People can Google some things, but yes. So my first byline as a paid journalist was in Essence.
That's
Um,
amazing.
and I
That's
think this
amazing.
Thank you. I think this is important to tell because I just love how transparent you are with your audience. The very first article I wrote got cut.
Oh,
It was a health piece, service piece, and it just got cut because of advertising. So that still happens, but especially when magazines were more at their peak, print magazines were more at a peak.
yes.
Um,
Yes.
there are times when things have to get shuffled around because an ad gets added or something gets. So there were many, 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 many more to follow. But that very first one, I obviously worked so hard on it. But it was a
Did you get
huge.
a kill fee though? Did you even know what a kill fee was?
You know what? I didn't, but I was on staff.
Oh, got it. Oh, that's even worse. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, I was on
because you got to
salary.
move on. You got to move on
Yes,
to the next thing.
yes, yes. Um, but I think it was an important lesson to learn, a tough one, but to learn very early on. You have to keep going.
So I want to dig in deep on it because you just made me kind of want to not go through the fluff with you. You've written so many articles for so many years. What is your mechanism by which of ending something and starting something? How do you let something go? What is your way of letting an article go, especially when it's really close to your heart? How do you let something go?
Mm, that is a great question. I would say it's a case by case basis. However, I can always feel like if I'm enjoying writing something, I think that translates to the reader or to the audience. And so if I'm going on and on and on, sometimes I'm on deadline for 2 stories right now. I'm working on a story right now, and it's too long, so I have to go back and cut. Um, to get the word count down. But I'm like, okay, did you make the point that you really wanted to make? Because there's the point that the editor wants you to make, or that the outlet, whatever the assignment was, but then there's usually something that you really want to get in.
Yeah.
Right? That that maybe wasn't in the assignment letter, or the editor may not even be expecting, right? But that you
got to be creative about it.
Yes.
Yes.
Once you check those boxes, for me, it's like, okay, I can release this. I will say this, and I think we're gonna talk about this a little at some point. But my father was an artist. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to feed his family. My father's deceased. He wasn't able to feed the family, and he did an amazing provider. But he had a blue collar job that was the 9 to 5. But then he painted and sketched, and he was never done. And I learned very early that most artists are never, like, even if you hang it up, you frame it, you sell it, there's always something that you are like, I could have changed this, I could do this, I could do that. So, and I never thought about this until just now, but I think he taught me that lesson, that I learned that lesson organically from him. That sometimes you're just not going to feel like you're done, but you have to release it.
You have to release it anyway, even though you're saying I can't. Yeah, that's very very hard for me. Yeah.
No, it is.
Well, especially now later on, and now that I'm really doing impactful articles, there was a time when I didn't. I was just writing to be writing, obviously.
Yeah.
But now that I'm writing more impactful. It's sometimes hard, for sure. Again, I guess one of the things that I do want to talk about, you talked about your dad, but when did you really start storytelling? I mean, when did you know that it was something that was innately a gift for you?
So very timely. I went to a Christian elementary and middle school. It was one school. And we just had a reunion a couple of weeks ago. Huge reunion. Former teachers came from out of state, former students all over the country. And my 6th grade English teacher, who now she's retired, she now lives in South Carolina. She came back up for the reunion. But she would give us, so I have 2 teachers, but she would give us these assignments every Friday. So it would be a quote from whomever, living or deceased, anything that was thought-provoking to her. And we would have to write a 3-paragraph essay about that quote every Friday. And I have to tell you, that was like it didn't even feel like work. Like, I loved that assignment. I probably because I've never been a math girl.
After one or the other, right? One or the other.
Yeah, after 6th grade, it's like, why are there letters on the page if this is supposed to be math? But I looked forward to that assignment, and I usually did well. But she was a strict teacher. She was also fun, but she was strict. And she didn't sugarcoat. So I think she pushed me. I think she challenged me. I think she noticed my strengths, but she tried to, get me to, okay, that may have been an A for someone else, but I know you can dig a little deeper. That kind of teacher.
She was your first editor. Yeah, your first editor.
Yes. And then my 1st grade teacher, we didn't realize how blessed we were. We had book reports. I remember Charlotte's Web was a book we read, Sounder. Most of my teachers, the school, were Black. All of my teachers were Black. And so I enjoyed writing those book reports. And
did you have writers in your family, or did you know that this could be a career?
So,
or even journalism,
Right. No, I was a magazine junkie early on,
Me
and
too.
my father got Reader's Digest, and we always got Essence and Ebony and Jet, right? I'm sure, you know,
The jet, yeah.
the
The
Jet,
jet. The
that
jet.
the other
Yeah.
week, weddings of the week, and so I think I understood even from like a very early age that there were people who did this for a living, but there was
Mhm.
definitely no one in my family who did. People in my family had more traditional careers, whether it was blue collar, like you know I mentioned my dad. My mother worked for the government. And then there were people, you know, some people in my family who had more professional careers, like social workers or, you know, even college professors, but like that creative, like someone who made a living storytelling and like more, you know, more that creative space. Because I think we know the story, right? You know, as people, as Black folks, and I come from humble beginnings. The goal is to go to college, you know, get a good job, get benefits,
Yes.
and you know, be able to try. So,
I call it the Midwest mentality. Yeah.
oh,
Get up at 6, come home at 6.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
you know. But I will say my parents were supportive. So I had a subscription to a magazine called 321 Contact. Even
Mm.
though you know, math and science, my father got me that subscription, weren't my thing. Education was important in our home.
Yes. Yes.
In hindsight, I can see that. And so, but I enjoy getting mail. I think most children back then did. So
They
the
still do.
magazine, okay, yeah.
You
So the
still, yeah, people still enjoy getting mail, I think. Yeah.
yeah, so that magazine had my name on it when it came, you know, came in the mail. It was mine. So that alone. But then I would like thumb through, and then a little later on, like in I guess that was high school or beginning of college, there was a magazine called YSB.
YSB, that came from BET, from BET.
Yes.
I was just reading just reading Deborah Lee's book. She was in Detroit. No, she was in Detroit just last weekend.
Oh.
Yeah. That's the only reason. Yeah.
Yeah, because I heard she goes in that book. But yeah, but YSB,
Read the book, read it.
YSB is underrated. That was a really, really important publication. So yeah, so the what I will say though about people in my family, so you're from Detroit?
I am.
Woo. I love.
Where you from?
No, I'm from Queens, New York, and my people are from North Carolina and Alabama. But my Alabama side, my dad's side, I have some distant relatives. Well, some relatives that live in Detroit because the Great Migration. You know, a lot of people from Alabama went to Chicago and Detroit. So, but I'm reading a book about Fannie Lee. Oh, what's the woman's name? I'm taking my time. But it's set in Detroit.
Oh.
Yes, the woman, and the author's name is Bridget. But her mother,
yeah, you gotta give me that.
Her mother was a number runner in Detroit. And yeah,
Fiction?
the book is no, nonfiction.
Yes, send it. Oh,
Yes,
okay, send it to me.
So I definitely will. But I love this.
I digress. You said YSB, and mine was Ebony Jr., honey. Ebony Jr.
Ebony Jr. Yes. So my older brother got Ebony Jr. Yes. But you know what I will say though about you asked about storytelling, because at the end of the day, that's what good journalism is. That's what, you know, the nucleus is, right? I come from a family of storytellers. Even if it wasn't the written word, like, you know, going back to North Carolina to my grandparents' house in the summertime and like just spending time with those elders and stuff, there were so many stories and layers to the stories, and you know, getting different interpretations of the same story. It did spark something. But you're asking excellent questions, because that's something else I had never really thought about. But yeah, I do come from.
No, once you told me you had 20 years, I said, well,
Yeah.
let me redirect.
Yeah.
Let me redirect. No, I mean, the storytelling aspect is super is funny because my family is the same. You made me think about some things too. But
Mhm.
when did you kind of realize, at least from a professional point of view, that this was a career choice, and kind of who were the people that you looked up to say, okay, I could do this, if you can remember?
Yeah, okay. So, initially I thought I wanted to be in college, at least. I thought I wanted to be a buyer, fashion buyer.
Oh, that's right.
And
You
then
said you were okay.
I went to FIT. But like remember I said I'm not a math girl. So I thought, I'm creative and the buyers, they go to shows, they travel, they pick out the clothes and then I was in all those math classes because you don't start doing that stuff until 10, 15 years in the game. And I was like, oh, this isn't for me. But I went back to, I really enjoy writing. Maybe I can write about fashion. And
Mm.
article in YSB, and I wish I could remember the actual journalist's name because I can't. But there was an article about the different types of career paths within the fashion industry. And fashion writer, fashion journalism was one of them. And I said, oh my goodness, that would be the best.
That's me. That's me. Right.
Yes. And so then I stalked the mastheads of different magazines, and Essence being, I'm a Black woman, and Essence is a magazine for Black women. And I know I stalked the then fashion director Renee Sheffy Brown, back when people were still mailing resumes.
Yes, honey. And faxing. Uh-huh.
Faxing,
And
yes,
faxing. Uh-huh.
um, right, for an internship. And I did not get an internship at Essence, but my first, full-time job out of college ended up being at Essence. But I did, may she rest in peace. Oh my goodness, this woman was this heart of gold. Linda Johnson. I don't know if you knew Linda.
No, but the name sounds so familiar.
Oh yeah, she passed away during COVID, but she was the style director of Children's Business Magazine, which was um, an industry. So it was a trade publication for the audience, who, people who worked in the children's wear industry. It was their WWD, right?
Oh,
And
wow.
speaking of WWD, and it's since folded, but speaking of WWD, it was under Fairchild at the time. Fairchild was the publisher for
Yes,
Fashion
yes.
W
Uh-huh.
magazine, and so I did get an internship with Linda, and I learned so much from Linda Johnson. I mean, work wise and otherwise, because she was just a badass. She had a brownstone in Harlem. I mean, I just like she owned the brownstone. She wasn't, staying in it. There was so many things that I, and was inspired by about her. But she, whether it was like actually going on a shoot, if we were, it was an internship. So if I was carrying 3 bags, it was because Linda had 4, right? If we were on set and she was asking me to, making sure you taking notes or all the things, these were things that she could actually do too. Because I feel like there are times when it's so unfortunate when young people have internships where they're working for people who haven't even done the things that they want them to do.
That they want them to do. They're just telling them to do it, but when they're showing them how. Yeah.
Oh,
Been
right.
there so many. Yeah. That's why I wrote a. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And one of the things, I don't know if this was one of the questions you were going to ask, but I feel like I should share this. One of the things I will never forget that Linda taught me, and she said this quite a bit, was it's not about, and so this was initially about fashion style journalism, right? But it applies to everything that I write about now. It's not about what you like and what you don't like. It's about the audience. So, she would say, I mean, she was a fashion editor living in New York, and she was like, look, I wear black, head to toe black every day, but I can't report on that.
No one would care, right?
Right. she had locks down to her butt. Like she's like, but like everyone is not gonna like this is a skill set, this is a craft. So I go to the showrooms, I go to the shows, I report on what the trends are for that season, or things that I'm seeing on the street, or things that it's not just about what I like and what I don't like. Does that inform what I write about and what I cover? Of course. But, you have to separate the personal and the business in that sense. And objective journalism is like becoming a lost art. Like everyone has a podcast and yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about the art of interviewing and how everyone feels like they could interview. You made me think of something about when I first started. I started in music. You started in fashion. I started in the grunt of music, and it was about the artists and about them. But now, as I'm getting older and writing more things, I'm writing more things about what I'm personally interested in. Do you find that to be the same shift?
Yes, I definitely do more personal essays, like op-eds, things I pitch, and also things that I'm assigned, that I'm asked to write about. But what I think is key is that when you've been working in a field for a certain amount of time, your voice, or your point of view is and not to say that someone who's brand new to the game doesn't have a point of view that's valuable, and that's not what I'm saying at all. But yes, when you've interviewed, so for example, you worked at The Source, when you've interviewed dozens of hip hop artists or producers or what have you, if someone asked you to write a think piece about the state of women in hip hop, your lens is going to be different than someone who's just casually, streaming songs about what, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think you've earned the right, at some point you earn the right to do that, because you've talked to so many different people in different lanes, and you take things from all those conversations, and
Have you ever had one of those chances or opportunities to make that type of impact, especially, I would say, in the last 5 years? Have you been where you see that the impact has been made from something that you've written, whether it's comments, likes, your team?
Yes.
Where did that happen?
Oh my goodness. It's so surreal. It never gets old. So most recently, I have a couple of examples, but I wrote a piece about HBCU homecomings for Essence. I pitched it. I really, really pitched and championed for the photo editor, Adrian Waheed, to work on the story with me, because I knew how important the images were to the story. And it was in print, and where it ended up in digital wasn't necessarily, didn't get the best visibility. And I just kind of thought, it didn't make the impact that I thought it could have, right? And your friends and family, your husband, your people, right? Right. And I was recently in Charleston for it was like a press trip, a hosted trip. Love Charleston. I think people sleep on that city. But there was a woman, it was a group dinner, my last night there. And somehow or another, the article came up, and this woman almost was in tears, talking about how that article touched her and how, moved she was by it. And she had nothing to gain by telling me this. It wasn't you know what I mean? And I was like, oh my goodness, you never know who's reading.
That's another skin that we have to have as journalists. We have to create these babies and let them go into the world. And sometimes you'll never get thank you, a response. And how do you deal with that? Again, I keep asking you, I guess, mental state things, because we are creating babies and letting them go, and sometimes never.
Right. I mean, I think my spiritual connection, that is definitely a work in progress. I don't think I'm a religious person, nor do I aspire to be, but I'm a spiritual person, and um, just because religion can have so many different, from one interest to one church to the next.
Yeah, one
One,
belief to another. Yes,
yeah,
for
but
sure.
do unto others, realizing that that there's something so much bigger than me, that is controlling all of this. That, and that's to me. I mean, everyone may not feel the same, but like, as far as me and my house,
Right.
yeah, I'm in prayer a lot, and I just in the last like year realized that sometimes the prayer can be, I need help,
That's right.
I'm confused, I'm disappointed. Like, I used to think it had to be like this long, lengthy. I had to, because He knows, God knows.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Always. And he sees the work you put in, sees your mind, your thoughts,
Yeah,
everything. Yeah. It's just kinda like it's like being in therapy. It's almost like you gotta voice it out so it'll come clear to you, you know.
because it's really, come on, right?
But okay.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So speaking of therapy, and then you mentioned something about seeing things in my family. Knowing in my family, like, I didn't grow up seeing people in my family go to therapy, talk about therapy. It was kind of like, we don't air our dirty laundry kind of thing. And so I have a therapist.
Me too. Me too.
Um, so I pray and go to therapy. You
That's
know,
right. And you let it go.
and yeah, and I
And
let
you
it go.
let it
Yeah.
go.
I do want to go back to, because there are a couple of other examples. So Black Bridal Bliss, um, my first baby, I have a 5-year-old son. Black Bridal Bliss was like the first baby. There have been so many women, and Black Bridal Bliss is going through some growing pains as the platform evolves, and as digital media evolves, because it started off as like more of a blog, and blogs have kind of shifted, and then social media, it's yeah, but it's very much still an important active community where people seek resources and information, and also get to see Black love celebrated and Black women celebrated. And the amount of Black women from all over the world who have contacted me to say they just enjoy, they're not engaged, they're not necessarily looking to get engaged, they're happily single, happily dating, widowed, and have no intentions of remarrying, but they enjoy seeing other Black women celebrated.
Love. Yes.
One,
Yes.
and that is really, like, that's the biggest, because that was a germ of an idea I had to create Black Bridal Bliss, to see the reactions that people have. And even when sometimes I have to take a hiatus because of freelance, right, because of work, I mean personal life, family responsibilities, that people continue to rock with me, and they're like, she's gonna get back. We enjoy the real storytelling that comes out of this platform. So that's huge. I wrote a piece, and I think this is the piece that we connected on on LinkedIn. I wrote a piece about a town called Mitchellville in South Carolina. It's right outside of it's part of Hilton Head, where essentially formerly enslaved Black people were thriving, had their own communities. I touch a lot on the Gullah Geechee community there. But I wrote about it from a personal essay standpoint, like, so visiting, like walking down memory lane, like talking to people who were from the area, and my